Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Ladies of Sosa podcast. My name is Sarah.
And my name is Christine. We have a very, very important, hard-hitting topic that we're going to be getting into today. And we are going to be talking about mental health within the South Sudanese community, PTSD, trauma. Trigger warning right now, but it's so needed. Without further ado, let's introduce the panel. I will take it to Nyaliva, and I'll let you introduce yourself, sis.
Look at you saying my name proper. So as Christine said, my name is Nyaleba. That's the proper way to pronounce it. I am a registered nurse and I am currently pursuing my psychiatric nurse practitioner program. I just started, so wish me luck. Mental health is very important to me, so I'm really excited to get into this topic.
Hi everyone, I'm Vida. I work in education as a teacher.
My name is Togriel Manuel, or Togriel Martin Manuel Ayuel. I am a South Sudanese by birth, of course, and, an American by naturalization. I have Masters of Social Work. I currently work as a behavioral health specialist at a county hospital. I'm working on my PhD in education currently. So I've been in the field of mental health for the last 14, 15 years, and I'm passionate about it. And that's why I'm here today. So that's all I can say. So we'll have this discussion and see what we can do to help our people, our community, because we need it.
Yeah.
Thank you. And if I remember correctly, you're currently working in the psychiatric
emergency room at the county hospital.
Awesome. So thank you so much for being here. We are so excited to hear what you have for us today. And next we have Willie with us, our treasure analyst.
Yeah, happy to be here. Definitely excited to have this conversation that we don't really have very much in our community. So looking forward to it.
So,
stand-up comedian, not good at mental health.
Yeah, so we definitely wanted to have this conversation because, number one, it's been very much requested from our community to discuss it, but we took our time because we wanted to make sure that we had people who were at least one person who was a specialist, because me and Christine are not equipped to tackle this by ourselves. We need someone who works in the field, who works in with mental health, people who are dealing with mental health and who has the education and background to actually provide the resources. We do not have that, at our disposal. We have to reach out to people. So it was like, this is the time. Whenever we talked and you were like, South Sudanese people we need to talk about this because it's so stigmatized. It's almost like we brush it under the rug. I know sometimes people that I've known who passed away through suicide, trigger warning, or drug overdose, or even alcohol.
Self-transitioning.
Yes.
Self-transitioning.
But a lot of the times our family will brush it under the rug and act like it happened through natural causes or something else happened. It's so hard for us to use the word mental health, depression, alcohol abuse. And so let's tackle it once and for all with, a panel that has known someone who's been through it or works in the field. We're so excited to actually tackle this within our community and keep the conversation going.
we have Togriel with us, and she actually reached out to us because she has been advocating for mental health within the South Sudanese community. She has done work with the Lual Deng Foundation during her South Sudan Unite events, and she has actually done a workshop and spoken about this topic, and she has worked in this field for the last 15 years. So we do want to get into her story because she has a lot that she wants to share.
Do you want to start with maybe defining mental health, what that is? Let's
That's
start
what
from
I
the
was
basics.
going to,
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because, there's mental health and mental illness. So mental health is, individual, emotional, physical, and psychological well-being. How we feel, how we, act, and all that, and how do we handle stress. That's what mental illness is. Mental health is. And then mental illness are the disorders that comes along, the depression, the bipolar, the schizophrenia, anxiety, PTSD. And so that's what we need to know is which is which. And so that's what mental health is, our well-being, all overall, psychologically, emotionally, and physically. How are we stable? How do we handle stress? How do we handle life challenges?
Yeah.
And then the illnesses are the disorders that come along.
So you would say that this is a natural thing. I know you said on our call that we had prior to the shooting that mental health is something that is not your fault. It could be like a chemical thing or a mental thing. So I would love for you to touch on that because I do think it's a stigma or in our community or a taboo. So I want us to kind of highlight what it is to have issues with mental health and how it really is not your fault whenever you're struggling.
And I always tell people that because people always think that, why mental illness is like any other disease. If you have cancer, you go to the doctor. If you have any other medical issues, but mental health, people think it's not. But it is a disease. It's a disease that you could live with and you can function with. So that's when we look at the factors that contribute to mental health. What are those? The first one is genetic. You may be born with it. It comes along. The other one is life experiences. You can go through trauma and causes you to have PTSD, which is, mental health illness disorder, or you have a family history of mental health that was not diagnosed or is in the family. So those are the factors that contribute to this. So it is not your fault that you have a mental illness or you develop mental illness. It's a medical disease. It's a disease.
Yeah.
Right. And so what caused you to get into the mental health field? And what have you seen? Because you talked to us about, I'm sorry, we're going to go deep. We're going to be real.
Oh.
You talked to us about how sometimes there have people you treated that were South Sudanese or their families that you have treated.
Mm-hmm.
And whenever you run into them, they will act like, you'll say, how's everything? How is your, the person that I treated, or like, how's everything? And they'll act like nothing's wrong. Oh, everything's good. But it's like, if anything, I'm a mental health specialist, a South Sudanese mental health specialist. You are.
Mm-hmm.
Why can't you just tell me the truth so that I can help?
Can help.
You can provide the resources and equip you with the tools. And let's talk about that. And y'all, panel, jump in whenever you guys want and ask questions or put in your experience as well.
And it does hurt, as I said, when being a proud Sudanese or an African, and then you go, it's a psychiatric emergency room. Like any medical, we are the only psychiatric emergency room that serves 8 counties here. So everybody comes there. And, I'm helping thousands of people. And then when I see Africans or I see South Sudanese especially, they turn their head away from me, not to even, an eye contact. And with confidentiality and HIPAA, I won't acknowledge, I'll just pass by, but it hurts. Instead of seeing me and smiling, like other races do, they're afraid. And I guess because the stigma our community have, then, we have so much stigma about mental illness that we don't even want to face it. Yet our children or even parents, all of us are suffering from that. So why don't we get the help we need? And Sarah, as you asked me what got me into it, is, when I came to United States, I went to college in Minnesota. So I took a social work class or a mental health class for an elective. And I was triggered of, so there's something, mental illness. The one when I was in Africa, when you see somebody talking to themselves, they were bewitched. It wasn't because they haven't,
That is such a good
yeah.
Yeah.
But, coming to learn that's schizophrenia.
Yeah.
But, it's, blame the neighbors, and, they do all this traditional thing, praying, pray the evil away. So that got me after that. Then, I switched and I'm like, you know what? I want to do mental health. And so I went into social work, but specifically specialized in mental health and doing what I'm doing now. But that's what got me going, because lack of education. I didn't know that when, the neighbors were talking to themselves that, it was that. And that's how I got into it. But the stigma and lack of education in our community is what's killing us. What's killing our youth, what's killing our parents, it's lack of education and the stigma that come with it. So as, Christina say, it's not your fault that you have a mental illness. Yeah. It's not. Don't blame yourself. Don't be ashamed. It's not,
But do you think that, like, so for example, I have a lot of history of mental illness, especially with the people that I've been around in my whole life. Do you think that our traditions have led us to, like, not look at certain issues and certain things the same way that everybody else would look at it? We kind of shy away and we look at it with shame traditionally, and we say that's just something that we shouldn't look at that. We should just say, oh, hide that. Yeah. Like, your cousin's going through this right now, hide it. We don't need to show the aunties and the uncles, everybody else, because they're going to be talking about it. And they're going to say, what did they do in their family to deserve that punishment from God or everything else that we say, because a lot of the times we pass it down. We pass down that trauma, and it allows that mental illness to just fester and continually keep going. We always say, "Oh yeah, your cousin had that.
Yeah.
Now your uncle has it.
Yeah.
Or your uncle had that. Now your niece has it." Because we just keep pushing it down because we allow ourselves to ignore it because our consistent spiritual beliefs have prevented us from seeing the honest truth that even if you don't believe in God, it's right in front of us.
It's the traditional has a lot to do with it. Traditionally, we pray to our gods, whoever our gods are, and we do whatever. So it was never discussed, or they've never learned that it's a disease. So it's lack of that, not knowing, and if your family member has it, who wants the Johnsons to know that the Josephs have mental illness? We're hiding it. My family, I don't want anybody to know, so we sweep it around the rug. But most of it is our traditions and our culture. Yeah. Because it was never discussed and it was never brought about.
Yeah, Christine always talks about shame. How I'm sorry, I had to bring you in, but like I feel like because you do like, and that's so true. Our culture is very like, we want to maintain and protect our reputation. We don't want anybody to know like there's any imperfections in our lives. And like you always expose that, and I actually appreciate that because it's so true. Like as South Sudanese people, if there's any imperfection with our sons or daughters, we would rather hide it as opposed to like saying, "Hey, my son dealt with this, and this caused his demise, and I want to tell this to the community so that we can do better as a community."
Right.
It's more so like, "What are you talking about? He passed away in his sleep. He, somebody did something to him. Somebody put something in his drink," as opposed to us acknowledging
him, like she said.
Or he was dealing with like somebody
cursed him.
Somebody cursed him. It was like as opposed to actually dealing with things head on.
Our society is so family based, where something is wrong with someone, it becomes something is wrong with our family.
Yeah.
And then so everybody is, anything that's like sort of negative or whatever, they want to hide it because we don't want to present our family as looking crazy or bad or any type of negativity,
or to be ostracized from society. Because if people see that your family, like there's something wrong, or you guys have mental illness, people might not let your daughter marry.
Exactly.
That family, or a lot of it goes really deeper.
Those people are whatever. Those people are known for whatever,
Yeah.
And like it also it kind of brought a memory that I had when I went and visited my family in Sudan back in 2017. And I remember I was walking with my aunt. We're just walking, in the streets, or when they're not really streets, but we're just walking the dirt road.
We're working on it. We're working on it.
We're walking the roads. No, but we were just walking the roads, and I was asking her. I said, "Hey, like, what is this building? What is that building? What is this building?" And she goes, and I asked her about this one particular building that stood out to me, and she was like, "Oh, this is a building where all the crazy people." And when she said that, I don't know why, but it just like, from that point on, it just always stuck with me. From 2017, when I heard that, I was like, crazy people.
That's how.
Like, what is that? Like, what did that mean? What did that mean? And then she further explained to me, "Oh, it's the people who do this, who do that, and I was like, it brought into perspective how much mental illness is not acknowledged. It's not acknowledged in Sudan at all. Like it's like a demonic force. These people did witchcraft on you. You were born with an evil spirit. Like I was just, I don't know why, but that specific statement just stuck with me. And from that point on, I was like, no.
Do we have mental health hospitals in?
There's not one.
Or do they just? I feel like
no. There's one. I think there's one in Juba. Juba has one.
They have,
but nobody goes there because the stigma with it. So nobody goes there. But there's supposed to be.
I'm sure they don't have resources.
Do you think that the reason why a lot of Sudanese aunts, uncles, and everybody else are so afraid to acknowledge mental health is because most of them are going through PTSD?
Oh yeah,
absolutely.
And most
That's such a great point.
That's a great.
Like we live in survival mode, but I'm gonna be honest with you. Every single person that I know, everybody around me, especially from our community, we're all going.
And the thing is also, a lot of people don't want to face reality and look inward. there's a fear that comes behind that because it makes it more real.
And
Like,
you-
this is what I'm going. It feels it's too much, and I feel like a lot of the times, especially with Sudanese people, we have a bubble, we have our boundaries, we have our like corner where there's only so much we can let in. You know, we don't want to fully acknowledge what's really going on with us
I
because
believe
of
that-
that fear.
I believe that the people that felt the most in our communities end up being the people that take themselves and self-transition.
And you mentioned trauma. And that was,
Yeah.
because South Sudan is a traumatized country. All of us,
Absolutely.
we are intergenerational traumatized
Yes.
from our parents, parents. I am, my father and my mom. Of course, they went through trauma. I went through trauma of the war. Came to United States. I'm still, had trauma, and now I have children, and I'm so sure I have passed my trauma down to my children. So we have this intergenerational trauma that keeps going on and keep going on until we address it as a country.
Yeah.
It will never, but we're not. What do we do? Don't even talk about it. But yeah, we all traumatized. Our parents are suffered. Now the parents that are in United States, your parents, we're all carrying that trauma, and the symptoms of trauma, we're passing them down, and it's affecting relationships, families, dynamic, and everything to connect with each other, to be family.
Yeah.
That is
I think
such a
that's so important.
great
Can I ask you?
point.
Can I ask you a real question? Like, do you think that if we finally heal our trauma mentally, we will be able to heal our country and actually be able to get to a point of like seeing things clearly for what they are?
We can never finally heal our trauma. We manage to live with the trauma.
Yeah.
So we learn to live with it, adapt to it, adjust to it, but we cannot heal our trauma because we will have those flashbacks, nightmares that comes with trauma.
Absolutely.
So we will never heal it, but we will manage to live with it by learning how to cope with our trauma. And if we do that, then we'll be able to help our country by educating them. We all traumatized, starting from the president to whoever, all of us, the whole nation is. I don't care who denies that, but we are all a traumatized nation from the war.
How can we we know our parents are traumatized.
It's the cackling.
I'm sorry, I didn't need to laugh, but I just thought an ass whooping it.
The math is mathing.
We know.
Yeah.
We know, and it's hard to get that out of them, to even get them to speak about it. How do you think we can, as kids of traumatized parents who went through the refugee experience of, having to leave their homes, and find a way to,
To help you.
get what they got to get us here? How can we help them in terms of get over their trauma?
It's communication. Try to, understand them. Both of, as I said, we are all traumatized. So you yourself, you traumatized. Your parents are, but talk to your parents.
Yes.
Let's sit down and see. Communication is the key. But we don't communicate in South Sudanese community. We do not talk. Kids and parents, you're a kid. You to be seen, but not to be heard. Try to express yourself. So it's communication. Hopefully that they have lived long enough here in the United States that they can communicate and sit down with them. And all of you all need therapy or need some help. Not only them alone, because the trauma was passed down to you and it continues. So that communication has to come in. We have to communicate as family and help each other together. Do we need family therapy? Do we need family counseling? What do we need as a family? Because it's a whole family. You cannot treat one person without treating the other one.
Yeah.
So it's the whole family. All of us all need to be treated.
And I think that was such an important point that you made, question that you asked, Willie, because we have to be grace. We have to show grace to our parents, because what they went through. I mean, South Sudan went through, I think it was like over 30 years of civil war, and seeing that, like the number it's just a number to us, but like imagine growing up with that. Like half of your youth has been exposed to war, and just like people around you dying, and always having to fight for your freedom, your livelihood. And we don't fully understand that as, the descendants or the next generation, but we have to show grace to our parents who have been through that.
Right.
And if they can't address some of our issues the way that we would like them to, especially as much as we have been exposed to like Western culture, and we're always like, how come you can't treat us like how my friend has treated, or how I've seen this or what I've watched? Like that's not the reality that they grew up in.
Do you think we're hard on our parents? And
I think
a
we
lot.
are. I think we are. I think we're hard on
I
our
think
parents.
we are too, because I feel like a lot of it has to do with the lack of understanding where they're coming from too, because we're only exposed to what we see here.
Yeah.
You know, like sometimes we forget where they came from. Not to say that we will forever understand where they came from. Like, that's not what I'm saying, but I feel like there's the lack of empathy
Yeah.
from where they came from, because we're only exposed to what we see here.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying?
And there's a line between holding them accountable, because I
Yeah,
feel like we should hold our
absolutely.
parents accountable, but also like showing empathy, like you said,
Mhm.
understanding, trying to understand. And
Do
it's a
you-
hard
do
line.
you-
And that's hard line. That's a
Yeah,
hard
it's
line.
hard.
Do you think
It's
that
hard.
we as kids feel that like Western culture feels more healed than our culture sometimes, and we expect our parents to act like Western culture, but at the same time, Western culture has its faults, especially when it comes to mental health and stuff.
Little education.
I feel like I don't think it's right. I don't think Western culture is more healed. I think it's just that in America we have more language. So like we have depression. We have words to what we're feeling, but in Arabi Juba, I don't know.
Like, what do you say?
What do you say? Like, what do you say? Like, what do
What do
we
you mean
say?
you're depressed?
What is that?
Exactly. I don't think we have the language in our language to say how we're feeling.
Yeah.
So I wouldn't say Western culture is more healed. I just
What
feel
is
like
the word?
English
Wait,
has
what is
language.
the word? What is
Yes,
the word?
can you-
What's
do
the
you
word
know
in
the
Arabic
word
for
for
depression?
depressed?
What's the word in Arabic in depression?
Mafi.
Ayo.
Mafi.
It's miskin, but
Miskin.
No,
or-
No, Miskin is innocent.
quiet.
It's innocent.
It's
Innocent.
No,
thing,
I don't know. That'd be like shaitan. That's it. The devil. Like,
Mujrim.
That's down
Is it
bad.
mujrim?
That's bad. We literally don't
have
have
no
a
language.
word that comes
No,
to
because
mind.
there's no definition for it.
because they
Like,
don't exist. Words
they don't understand,
Exist. They
yeah.
don't know what it is.
Yeah, it's just
How do you
Majnun
define
best.
it?
Do you
It's
think
just
that
crazy.
like once you're able to create, because like I will ask you this question, because this actually what they just said, I know it sounded from a funny part, and I'm the comedian that's supposed to go ha ha, but like if we're honest with ourselves, do you think that Sudanese scholars like yourself and people that are around you should start creating this language so that when our people finally get to see the symptoms in front of them, be like, oh yo, that's like cousin, what's his name? This is like okay, so how do we help that?
That's such an important point, and I feel like we need to tie this into the diaspora, because we have seen a large number of our youth dying within the last
Self-transitioning.
few
Yeah.
years from unaliving themselves, because for YouTube purposes I'm not going to say the actual word.
I just say
Absolutely.
self-transition from the
And
jungle.
also how I really want to take it to our panel, the link between mental health issues and drug use, because that has contributed a lot to us losing a lot of our young people as well. It's swept under the rug by the community, and you come to find out they've overdosed or they've unalived themselves.
Yeah. Even besides like dying, like we party a lot as South Sudanese people,
Oh,
and
yes.
we consume a lot of alcohol.
Yeah.
I'll take
Alcoholism.
accountable. I'll take accountability.
Alcoholism.
Yeah, we have so
Bari
even-
people are known.
even outside of the even
Drink a
outside
lot.
As a
of, even
person
outside
who's-
of the extremes, it's like we say, oh, South Sudanese people like to party, but are we coping with something?
We're coping. We're definitely coping. Because
Yeah.
as
You know,
No, like,
Yeah,
but
that is-
the way you say that,
You know?
Christine, your Bari people, like, it's just, every
Nothing's
tribe
the
feels
same.
that way.
Yes,
yeah,
That's
yes.
it.
Like the niggas are known, like, you know,
Yeah,
like,
that's why every
same.
Acholi people
Nigga
drink a
boy,
lot
nigga,
too,
yeah,
right?
exactly.
They
We're
already
all drinking.
no,
She
Dinka,
said-
Dinka people. No, Dinka people too. Dinka
Yeah.
people.
y'all all have an uncle that they know as the uncle that just
the drunk uncle.
We all have those.
And then we just brush it aside, like that's just how
It's a
he
thing.
is, and that's
Or the
how we
uncles
are.
But
But
don't
even the-
get married, and then they're azaba or whatever, so they just live together and they. What is it?
don't-
Oh, you take a
don't let me start a theory now.
Sakruji.
They gonna
It's
be
just drinking.
Oh, she took it there. She took it there.
No.
Uncle, please, when you see this, I'm not talking about you.
I'm not talking about you.
Okay.
Christine.
Yeah, okay,
Christine.
Hey,
You say
we
the
didn't call
uncles,
any names.
the uncles that stay roommates
The
forever?
uncles are like this.
Don't let me
Exactly.
start.
It's what you say.
I
And it was funny
Economics.
until I'm seeing people my own age.
Save money for
Yeah,
It
start to
was
develop.
funny until I'm seeing people my own age, especially the last few years,
Yeah.
develop alcoholism. So it's like, oh, it's not an uncle thing. It's like no, this is just a thing for us. And now you're at that age where you're alcoholic too.
You're gonna be that uncle. You're gonna be that uncle.
And can I say about can I say something about that? In my experience, I've noticed that like for those, you know, my partying friends, whatever, it's like it's always whenever they're sober when I ask them, I'm like, hey, like, what's been going on in your world? Like, what's up? Like, how
what
are you
we
doing?
Celebrating every weekend?
But then they don't tell me, and then it's not until the liquor hits is when they want to open up, and I'm like, oh my goodness.
Yeah, not
oh my God, Nyaliba, do you think it's because of the taboo culture that everything is swept under the rug and it's shame, so that they keep everything and suppress everything inside, and then they find their outlet through
and you know
drinking or drugs?
I honestly believe that 100%.
Yeah. And they always say that alcohol brings the best out of, you know, gives you the courage or the strength. But coming to, you know, the alcohol or, you know, the drugs or that, you know, being consumed and taking some lives of our youth, it's because they're self-medicating.
Yeah.
They're coping with it because that's the only way they know how. My mom can't talk to me. I can't talk to dad. We can't talk to family. So you know what? I'm just going to party with my friends. Partying is not because they want to party every day. It's just because it's an outlet for them.
Right. Yeah. Also, can I say something? With mental health, a lot of people don't realize how bad it is until somebody else says something. Like they won't themselves see it until their family or their friends or other people notice it. So like they will self-medicate, they will party, they will drink, they will smoke, they will do whatever they need to do because they think, oh, well, my friends are doing it, I'm just doing it a little bit more.
And
like they don't see it as bad or as anything as serious because it's like, well, I got the time for it. It's nothing serious.
And it's easy to mask mental health with partying. Or going out. It's so easy
like she
to
said,
do that.
It's self-medicating. They don't realize it's like, you need actual medication to heal
help
that.
you.
But like alcohol and all this stuff, it does actually heal it in a way.
Temporarily.
But these are like harmful drugs to you in the long run.
It
they're not
absolutely.
They're not a fix. You can't drink and go to work and be.
But the thing
you can pretend with alcohol.
Better,
Here's the truth of it. You can pretend with alcohol because alcohol is so widely accepted in Western culture.
Oh yeah.
So for me, I had this conversation with my cousins who are one of my cousins passed away from pills, and it's the same thing as the alcohol, but the pills were more. They ended it quicker, and they were quicker because it's long-term death versus slow death, and I mean slow death versus quick, right? And I had this conversation with my brother, and it was like, hey, at the same time, bro, he was like, he looked at me in the face, he's like, Emmanuel, do you not realize that you're sitting on the couch like drinking every day? You're doing the same thing that he did, and why are you casting aspersions on him for taking the pills? And it hit me hard.
It's just a
It's a different way of coping.
And I think it's like something I've seen a lot is like how within the community, like just how we would shame things that people see, but like we don't go to the root of the problem. So like, oh, you're drinking, oh, you're doing pills, oh, but I'm just like, okay, they're doing these actions, but why don't we ask ourselves why they're doing it? The thing, it's so hard because it's the things that you can't see that are the things that are really what you should be paying attention to, not the actions itself.
Another action I want to highlight that I hope people don't eat me up about is the fighting. South Sudanese people have been known to
talk about it,
fight a lot in public, at clubs, lounges, everything. There was once this notion that Somalians and South Sudanese people, those are the two groups that if you have a party, you better be careful because they're going to fight. And I've seen that in our own functions growing up. The parties,
take me out
right now. The parties that we used to have and the events, it would not end without at least one fight happening. And I feel like that has a lot to do with the PTSD from all of the trauma, like you were talking about, that has been passed down, that is finding different ways to manifest itself through alcoholism, drug use, and aggression and violence and the gangs culture that has been developed, especially in like the Midwest states and stuff. So,
and another thing too,
the Midwest specifically. She said Nebraska,
but I'm not trying to be funny when I'm bringing
but you are right.
I'm observing things that I've seen.
It's the way that she made it so professional, like so, like.
And then she said Midwest
as an example.
But that's trauma. We've South Sudan with the fight and everything. All we know is violence.
Right.
If you do anything to me, I get my gun and, you know, that's it. So that's why people are fighting, because that's what we know. So we don't have guns around here, but, you know, we're going to use our fists, and that's constant fight.
So
why are you looking at me?
And with even like alcohol, smoking, whatever, like in whatever the state you're in, it only amplifies it, right? Yeah. So like if you are already having a bad day or you're already really emotional or you're angry and you drink or whatever the case may be, whatever you do, it's gonna amp you up. Yeah. Like it's just gonna make you more physical.
Can we honestly say that like this is coming back from the last episode we just had. And it's like, for me, it just hit me. I was like, the reason why us as Sudanese, we relate so much to African American culture is because like we're literally a mirror of each other. Like we're people that have been so traumatized through war or through slavery that like it has made us into like we're still good people and we're still great and we're still doing what we're doing, but at the same time we can acknowledge the fact that like our traumas have made us do what we do to our children and our children's children, and it's continued going. They are just recently getting out of what they just went through, because Jim Crow wasn't that long ago. Right. The same way that we just came out of our trauma in South Sudan when we ended and we just became our own country.
Getting back to that violence you're talking about, do you think that we should continue the trend of beating our children?
What? Damn!
Is that not violence?
So,
is that not the same violence
it's the same.
We're repeating onto our?
Are you saying should we continue beating them, or how do we stop beating them?
I'm saying if we were a generation that were beaten, should we continue that to our children?
We shouldn't. We're trying to stop it. It's learning to, you know,
how do we do that?
How do we discipline them? How do we more healthy
soft
discipline?
Parenting.
You know, discipline,
soft
tactics.
parenting.
But sometimes you go back to that. I do that as a mother sometimes. You know, when my kids does something, the first thing I want to do, mufraka. My kids know mufraka, and you know, and that's the one when I was growing up. I'm like, I'm not gonna do that, but I do mufraka, or I, you know, some finja, or you know,
lokongore. That's what we say in the Equatorian. Nice lokongore for us.
Wait, you still use the mufraka?
Yes, mufraka. Listen, mufraka is very
Auntie, there's only so much. Once here's the thing, you have 1, 2, 3. Once that third mufraka get broken off your back and you don't feel anything, you're like,
Sifinja, best.
Maybe I could be a criminal.
Finja is easy.
It's the easy.
So like
the charger.
That's something serious. That's something serious.
And
the lokongore on your forehead.
I have 4 of them.
Listen, you can't recover from that one, okay?
No.
At what point do you stop soft parenting? Like,
no, but with my kids, I talk to them. Okay. Like I discipline them, and I told them, and you know, they were told in school, if your mother, you know, or father ever spank you, call 911. And I'm like, what? So we had that discussion. I'm like, I'm not beating, you know, the hell out of you. No offense, but I'm, you know, call the police. And that's when my son came home one day. He's like, they told me if you, you know, beat me, call the police. I'm like, okay.
Call the police.
Call the police. I'm like, here's the phone.
911.
And if they get here before you, 6 feet.
So that's a reflection of the Black American community, because we all, it's a cultural thing.
That's funny. But here's the thing. As elder siblings.
Let's get here.
Because you know.
No, but so what does it say? They said, if I brought you in this world, I take you out of this world.
That's what I said. Go ahead, call the police.
We can relate.
Because here's the thing. As elder siblings, you see your little siblings that don't get whooped?
Bro, don't get me started.
I want to
Maybe you want to give them that trauma.
I want to be like,
I would be the one. You think that's part of our trauma?
I've seen.
I don't want to give that to them though.
I don't know. Like,
I don't talk about that.
I don't know many Arabic words, but I know Anabi do with them.
What is it? Translate that for the people who don't understand.
Yeah, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you.
Okay.
Or Anabi labi sit the cuff. Like I'm gonna slap you.
Anabi tala ena. Have you heard that one?
Anabi tala ena.
Oh, that gave me the heebie-jeebies.
There you go.
But here's the thing, you know what's really super dope about that? Like, I know it sounds really bad for me saying it's dope than my parents, but here's the thing, there's a difference between beating
and disciplining.
And disciplining.
Because I saw some of my friends who got beat, and it was way different.
Yeah.
But to the point where my parents would have to go to their houses.
When they say Anabi kasurastaki, I will break your head.
Yeah. I know it it sounds bad, but it's not bad.
Why can't you just talk to them?
But let's acknowledge
Why
the
can't you
fact.
just communicate with your
Are we,
child?
are we laughing to our trauma? Right now?
No, we're not.
We are laughing about it. We are coping with it by laughing.
I'm sorry, but I'm gonna say there was just certain, but there was those aunties and uncles that would take it way
too far.
Yeah.
fucking
Exactly.
far,
To where
and
it
they were the
becomes
ones
abuse.
that everybody was like,
Yeah, it
no,
become
get
abuse.
There's
no.
a thin line between discipline
and abuse.
and abuse.
Yeah.
And that's what we are
And the
trying to
community
figure
used
out
to
here.
get on them. Like
What's the line?
I
What's the
remember.
line?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Because the aunties,
What's the line?
the uncles
is
that
the
would
line?
come home and beat their wives and beat their kids.
So that's an abuse. That's
And
domestic
they're
violence.
probably
That's
were
child
drinking
violence.
before they
And
came
they
home.
would come home and drink, and they would beat their kids. And the kids would come over to your house, like the cousins that you had. You remember those cousins that your cousin's gonna stay here for the next month, or your cousin's gonna stay here for the next couple of weeks, and all of a sudden the uncle was gone for a little bit. Like we had those moments, but
Yeah.
like for as much as we say that our parents were like they were what they were for what their generation was. They could only do so much if they went through so much.
And
That's why they were
that's
like level of
actually-
forgiveness.
Have we learned to solve problems by violence? Is
Yes.
Yes.
That's the way. That's the way we
Yes.
cope with it and plan and do
Yes.
things.
Can
When
you
want
fight?
to reach to the origin, Willie,
of
it all
yes.
kind of ties in
Yeah,
together.
because your parents. Yeah,
Let's talk
That-
about-
you wasn't no bitch.
That's fucked up.
Me,
I can't with you.
Christina, I don't want to say the
Tough.
name because I don't want to like do too much. But like me and Christine have a cousin that we grew up with. That's literally like Christmases.
Trigger warning. I didn't know you were gonna bring this up.
I know. I
Okay.
didn't plan
All
to.
right.
But since we
Let's
talked, since
go
we started
there.
talking about like
Yeah.
how our parents treat
Yeah.
us, how could that can push us to
Woo.
that hit a little different.
Yeah, it hits really close to home.
Yeah, but we have a cousin that we grew up with all the time. Like, you know, we used to get whooped together.
We take showers
take
together.
showers together.
Everything.
And they committed suicide. Trigger warning. A few years, not a few years.
It's
has
been a while now. When we were in college.
Yeah, it's less than a decade, but it's been a while. And you know,
Oh, this is so heavy. I really
know.
didn't. But yeah, let's
she
do it.
had went through a lot with her
we
family.
got you.
Yeah. She
it's
went through a lot with her family. And I feel like at this point as adults, I can actually like reconcile that, like what she was going through. Because at the time, I remember her reaching out to me, and I was in college. So there was not a lot I can do because I'm barely paying my own bills, you know,
Yeah,
I'm not barely taking care of myself, you know?
Yeah, she messaged me too and asked me if she could stay with me as well. And at that time, we were living in like dorm style living.
Yeah.
And I used to always joke with Janet and say like we're living in a shoebox. It was that small.
Yeah.
So I'm like, sis, like honestly, there's barely even space. Like I literally can hear my roommate breathe like through the wall. Like
right.
it's that
But
small.
she reached out for help.
Yeah.
And she asked, "Can I stay with you? Can I stay with you?" And me and Christina were in college at the time, so we
But
really didn't have
know
anything.
it was that
Even
serious.
yeah.
honestly.
In that looking,
'Cause looking
back,
back,
in
obviously.
hindsight, it's like, and then she
Oh my god.
she committed, she transitioned, like
Yeah.
Emmanuel said.
She completed. That's what they say. Complete suicide.
Yeah.
Yeah, she
A few months.
unalived herself in the most shocking way possible. Honestly, I don't even know if you want to say
I
it.
have a question about that. Because I know somebody too
Heavy.
that went through the same thing. I don't know. Maybe I don't know if you have an answer to this or not. And it's a two-part question. First is, when somebody's joking around suicide, is that a sign that they might commit suicide? And second, what are the signs of somebody who might actually do it?
So most people that will complete suicide will not even joke about it. They will not even talk about it. 90% of the people that complete it will not. The people that talk about it, they have the courage to ask for help, and that's when they'll call the hotline or the police and say, "I'm suicidal. I need to go to the hospital." But majority that will complete it will not ask for help. And you mentioned about the signs. The first sign, when some will talk about it, some will not talk about it. The other sign is they'll isolate from the family, no family functions, nothing, keeps to themselves, withdraw from everything, don't even talk to family members, don't even want to see family, they're just in the room or avoiding. And then some of them will start giving away their belongings, whatever they have, they'll give it away. Some will start talking about how they are burden to the family. I'm just useless. I'm a burden to this family. Maybe you guys will be better off without me. I'm done with this. And, as I say, some will say, I'm done with life. And, then those are the few signs that,
And another thing I wanted to add with that, they also will forgive people you would have never thought they would forgive.
Yeah.
That they told you that they've had past traumas with, or the people that have hurt them to the most extreme extent. That's unforgivable. They will forgive them and they will tell you about it. That's also one of the signs that I wanted to speak on too.
Yeah.
And to just before, because I know you were about our friend, like, I don't want to say what she did, but it was very, the way she did it was very traumatizing, even just to hear. And I also dated someone who unalived themselves, and that was very traumatic because I feel like there was a lot of mental health in there because they started having some unexplained behavior that wasn't normal. And nobody could really put a finger on what exactly was going on. And it's just like, that's not who that person is. That's not who I know them to be.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like there's a big correlation.
And speaking of that, me and Thug Girl have a shared family member who actually was a victim to mental illness or mental health and unalived themselves, who was my cousin. I grew up with him. And I want you to speak to this deeper, Thug Girl, because you were actually there and you are in this profession. And I just want I'll let you take over.
Tell the story.
I mean, as I said, people complete suicide. When they do, they don't talk about it, or they don't, most of them that do complete will not talk about it. And that's the example of my nephew. So my nephew's, it hit home because I've saved, how many people when I worked at the county hospital or working there, when they come in, I'm suicidal, I admit them or have the psychiatrist admit them. But I failed my nephew. How come I didn't save him? Why not? And that's the guilt that I'll live the rest of my life with. Although everybody's, telling me don't blame yourself, I will always blame myself. But yeah, December 17, 2017, my nephew came to Dallas, staying at my house. That Friday, we went, I used to work during the week and then I'm off Friday. I went to the mall with him and my 3-year-old son. We shopped all day, came home. Nothing seemed different. Except, I want to stay, I'm going to stay in Texas and, life goes on. And we had plans. At around 10:30, but every time in between, that was the funniest thing. Every time he went to the room like 4 times, but every time he would go to the room, my 3-year-old would actually crawl down, go and get him out of the room, bring him back into the living room. And he did that 4 times. And then when my son slept, I told him, nephew, I have to go, to sleep because I'm working in the morning at 7, so I have to go. And he's like, okay, aunt, good night, love you. He went to bed. I went to bed. Somewhere between 11:30 or something, he had called I had put my phone in the charger in silent. He had text, and I didn't see his text. And then he called 3 times. Then finally I woke up, and he's like, did you see my text? And I'm like, no. And he hung up. And I called him back. He has shut off his phone. So I go to the text. And in the text, he said, I am sorry, aunt, for what I'm about to do. You'll find my body by the park, by the house. So at that time, I just jumped out of bed, screaming my head off, told my husband, my nephew, I think, has killed himself, rushing down the stairs, calling 911. Because I go open the door to his room, he wasn't there. So I just ran to the park, no shoes or nothing. And I get there, and the stop sign where he said I will find his body by. So I turn, and it's like 12-something at that time, 12-something a.m. And I turn, and I think he thought I saw him sitting under the waterfall thing, and I didn't see him. And I just popped 1 gunshot to his head. At that time, the first paramedic, 911, the police were there. And the dispatcher is like, I hear the gunshot. Did he shoot himself? I'm like, yeah, but can you see him? I'm like, no, it's too dark. I can't see him. And she's like, the first, that they will be there. So the first cop come, and he's like, where did you hear the gunshot? And I showed him, and he lighted in the torch, and he had already fallen backwards. So as I tried to rush to get him, he threw me down and, took me to the car. And then the next police came. At that time, they put me in the car. The ambulance got there. My husband then came running, and they took me out of the car. They started doing CPR. And of course, because I work in the healthcare, so I do CPR too. It's part of my licensing requirement. And they stopped. And when they stopped, I threw myself down, started screaming. And my husband's like, "Why are you crying?" I'm like, "He's gone." And he's like, "What do you mean he's gone?" I'm like, "They stopped doing CPR." So basically, and I hear, them calling the call, time of death and all that. So the officer comes, the guy, and he's like, "I guess you figured it out. We've tried everything in our capacity." So he hit home. And he had left a 2-page suicide note explaining everything. And in the note, the part to me is like, "Aunt, I know I have ruined you. I'm sorry for what I've done, but please take my body back to Minnesota, where my mom is, so she can take, and bury me between me and my best friend." His best friend had died almost 6 years before that. And I'm like, So even when I called the funeral home, they were like, "There's no way there would be a space between the friend and him because it's been 6 years." Sure enough, the way he described in the letter, bury me next to my friend. We are under the tree, so me and him can continue to play the way we used to play. And there was a space next to, and that's where he was buried. So the guilt will always be there, regardless what somebody tells me. But suicide is, and there's a lot of Sudanese youth that have died from, completing of suicide, but we're not talking about it.
Right. And I think that speaks to like, you are a mental health specialist. Like you're more equipped than we are, or the everyday South Sudanese parent or family member. And the vulnerability for you to speak about that and say like, I feel like I failed as a mental health specialist is so important, because I feel like a lot of times you can feel guilty, like when something like that happens to our family member, but you yourself are saying like, I wasn't prepared for that, and I had the tools technically because I had the schooling and I had all of that, but it's something that you really can't prepare for. You can never prepare for.
You can never prepare for what happens or what actions people will take. Nothing will ever prepare you, no matter the qualifications, no matter how many years of training you've gone, how many signs and symptoms that you've studied. Mm-hmm. To even the pre-signs and symptoms, nothing can ever prepare you, because people are going to choose what they think is best for them.
Yeah. And you can never prepare.
I don't want to cry because I've been really emotional already.
Yeah.
But we can only do the best we can.
Yeah, nobody can get ready for that. No, it's been a professional in the field, and I tell my clients and their families, suicide is, if it happens, or how to, prevent it. And when it happened to me, I became, I didn't function. PTSD kicked in again. I was re-traumatized. Oh. I couldn't sleep at night. When 12:05 came in, I could hear the popping of the gun. Mm-hmm. And so when that time came in, I would be cleaning, cooking, doing everything at odd hours just so that I don't sleep, because I didn't want, And my colleagues had to like, Togriel, you have to sleep. You have to take medication if you need to take medication for you to sleep, for you to function. I wanted to walk out of the field, but then, one of my psychiatrists told me, unfortunately, what happened to your nephew, but what if you were in this field for a purpose?
Mm. Yeah.
Mm.
Yes.
Maybe to save one more life. It doesn't matter how many, just one more life. Maybe that's why you're in, and that's what kept me in. I could have walked away.
Sure.
And how was that for you? That's so traumatic, having to tell your family members. Obviously he's your nephew, so having to make that call. And not only that, how has it been after, with processing everything between the family members?
And he's gone. When they take their own life, they're gone, but the family that is remaining functioning is not. It doesn't function. My sister did not so when he called, my niece had called me 10 times and said, go to the park. He's there with a gun to his head. He's screenshotted to his friends. So so by the time I went, he had already, and she called me and she's like, so have you found him? And I'm like, yeah, but I didn't tell them what had happened.
Wow.
And everything. And then I had to make that call to my sister and to the dad. The dad was in Dallas, to tell him to come to the park because his body was there for like a couple hours before the medical examiner picked it up. So by the time I did that, my sister was already, had suspected something. And when I called and I couldn't talk, she knew what happened.
Yeah.
So as a family, we've never addressed his death until today. Unfortunately, I'm the only one that have talked about it, and I think some of my, they may not like it, but it's something. If Duar's death could save another life, another South Sudanese life, then I will do that to celebrate him. And to celebrate him, because he need to be celebrated.
Absolutely.
And the connection with me and him, my birthday is October 2nd. His birthday is October 3rd. So we used to celebrate. Like, my birthday, like, Aunt, let's go and celebrate. It's our birthday. And then we go, it's like, you paying. And I'm like, every year I have to pay. I'm like, why? Really so, now with my, my birthdays, I can't celebrate because tomorrow I'm going to cry. But then, I made it a promise to myself that he wouldn't want me to cry.
Yeah.
So now I don't cry anymore. I celebrate him.
Yes.
Because he had to be celebrated.
And that was my homie when we grew up. Like, that was the guy, like.
Y'all have pictures together.
Yes, we connected on a different level. Like, that was my male cousin. He got me, like, 100%. I got him. And you would never know that that's what they're going through, because he was like me, like bubbly, happy all the time, and just had this personality that was so infectious. You would never
the
know.
Laughter.
Yeah, like it's hard to reconcile.
It happened, sis. It was actually Sarah's graduation.
It was so
from
close
college.
to my yeah.
So we were at her graduation when her mom
Auntie Abu came too.
Yeah, she was actually going through like different emotions, because I saw her and I'm like, what's
Why
going
is she
on?
not happy?
Why are you
I just graduated.
Yes.
Because
And
she
I was
didn't
like, what's
tell you.
wrong? And then she told me, and I was like, oh my God. Like, it was bittersweet for all of us.
Yeah, especially.
I have a question for all of you guys. I think in our culture in general, and many other cultures and religiously, we have a pretty negative perspective about people who commit suicide, and we throw words out there like selfish or blah 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 blah. Like, is there a way that something that we can say to the community so they can understand what somebody's going through, to feel like that's the only option that they have? Because most of the time we know these people are not selfish. These people do care about their families.
Right.
But for some reason they're going through so much pain that they think this is the only option that they have. So is there a way we can change the narrative about how the community views suicide?
I don't think, because like so for me it's like super close to home, because my aunt, and damn, I didn't even expect myself to be emotional like this. Anyways, my aunt self-transitioned, and I think for a lot of people it's that conversation of like, why did she do it when she had kids, or why did she do it when she had people, or all these things. And then I remember I thought of that when I was in 6th grade when it happened, and then later on when I was 19. Well, actually, that's even crazier. It's probably when I was 9 to when I was 21. I dealt with those ideations or even thoughts. And I think,
oh my God. Please.
It's good, bro.
We got you.
Oh, good. Take your time.
Damn, I didn't even know.
No,
it's a sensitive topic.
It's a hard topic.
It's a very hard topic.
It's a very hard topic.
But that's
you're good. You got it.
I think when you finally, damn.
Okay, bro.
I think there's just so much going on in your head that you don't know what's going on with you. And you're just like, look, if this could just be quieted down, if it could just be like more silent, if it could just be quiet, if I couldn't tell myself, like, I'm nothing, I'm nobody, like, it's just like, when it's quiet, it just feels better, you know? And that's when it hit me, and I looked at my aunt, and I was like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm sorry. I didn't know it hurt this much. Like, I didn't know it was this bad.
You being a comedian, like, and having this like personality about yourself, it's so, I think a lot of people, it would be difficult for them to like even like think that you would think like that. Nobody would even imagine like that you, this funny person that makes us laugh, is going through all of this underneath the surface. Like, nobody would think that.
That's the thing about comedy, though. Like, a lot of comedians,
covering up.
Say that it's like masking.
Masking. We do a lot of masking. That's what we do a lot. We do a lot.
But at the end of the day, I'm sorry to interrupt.
No, it's okay.
But at the end of the day, I feel like we can only mask so much until it comes up to the surface.
And that's what's happening.
It'll come in due time.
At some point.
Yeah, at some point it will come in due time.
And it's up to us whether it comes up to the surface in a negative way where someone,
which is what we're
witnessing
right now,
or the way that Emmanuel, I feel like that was beautiful for you, to bring it up in that way. I think that's beautiful because you're still here with us. Yeah, and that's not saying anything to the people who
I don't deal with it anymore, but it was a rough decade, man.
Period.
But that's the problem we have as a community, as a South Sudanese community. We don't talk about it. Yeah. We don't deal with it, as and then when somebody, then it hits you and you find yourself crying and it's like, why, because we don't address it.
Yeah. One thing you brought up to us that was so important on our call that we had before the episode was the lack of consistency in keeping mental health a focus within the community. You said that we talked about it once or twice and then it was just like, okay, that was fun. But this type of topic is not something that we can talk about here and there. It needs to be constantly addressed over and over again.
Absolutely.
Can you please speak to why you think that that's important and different ways that you feel like us as a community can start to make this a reoccurring conversation?
Because it goes back to the whole, lack of education or knowledge thing. So we talk about it, as I said, as you said, Losing Foundation, we did it twice, the panel 2 years in a row. And then after that, COVID hit and I haven't done one. But after that, the first time I did it, the whole room, people that, lost the family members to, completion to suicide and people that are dealing with trauma, the whole room was in tears and coming up. And even him himself, he's like, I think, depression I am now dealing because my cousin, took their own life. So it's lack of education, but we need consistency. It's not supposed to be a topic that we talk one time and we move on and do the rest. It's supposed to be an everyday topic, every day. Yeah. Let's talk about it, family, let's talk community, talk to our kids, it's an everyday because it's affecting all of us, the parents, the children, everybody. So why do we have to talk about it once a month or not once a month, once a year, and then go without talking about it? It has to be an everyday. If it means weekly,
right,
monthly, quarterly, something. It has to be. Something. It cannot stop. Yeah. It cannot stop, and that's why I told you, ladies, if this conversation has to continue, it has to be a continuous conversation. I don't want just the one episode or the one where it has to be consistent.
Can I ask a question? What would you say to people who feel like they're going through the same thing? Like where can they find some solutions, or at least resources? How do you think they should process the situation?
Go ahead.
No, go ahead. No. I already started formulating, but
you go ahead. I mean, there's help out there. It's just asking. As I said, Christina said, it's not your fault. You have a medical issue. Mental health is, it's a medical condition. Ask for help.
Right.
I know our community does not support you, but there's help out there. Some of us wants you not to go through it. So reach out. We have so many mental health, facility programs out here. We are fortunate in the United States to do that. Back home, it's not even addressed, but here you're not alone.
And we have you. You are available here.
I am available here. Yeah. And if you want to talk to me or anything, reach out to the ladies of Sosa and they can, get you to me and we can go from there.
Ain't nothing more healing than talking to somebody in Denka when you're hurting mentally.
Oh my God. That's true. We also have Naliba too.
Yeah.
I'm in training right now.
Yeah. And she will be the one that will be prescribing medication while I,
give me 2 years.
And you wanted to answer that question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I mean, it was basically the same thing as what you were saying, but I feel like for those who are going through, the same situation, it starts with them. Like they have to have the drive to do it too. It's depression is such a tricky thing because you can only push so much, right? But I feel like a lot of the people who go through depression don't realize how many resources is present. So that's basically what I was saying was that there are resources out there for you, and for those who are going through depression, don't think that there isn't. You just have to make that first step.
And with the resources that she was talking about, always call, if you're in the United States, 911.
Yeah.
And if not, there's the new line that, the suicide crisis line, it's 988.
Yeah.
So they made it simpler. so that you don't have to. And it's covered 24 hours, 7 days a week,
Suicide
confidential,
line.
private. And it's, as I said, it's 988. Call the suicide line or the crisis line. They will talk to you and walk you through it so you're not alone.
And this is exactly why I wanted to pursue this career and further my education more in psychiatry, because I was already a psychiatric nurse, but I wanted to go into NP because I knew how much our community was struggling.
Yeah.
Like, even with my family members and just hearing the things that they would tell me, and I was like, oh my goodness, like, how are you coping? And then seeing how they deal with things, I was just like, this is so troubling to me. Like, I personally can't sleep at night because you haven't found an outlet, and you don't realize how the severity of what you're going through is.
Right.
So I am so grateful for you.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm also so grateful for you all that have been here, because to have such a real and honest and raw conversation, that is not easy.
Yeah.
That is not easy. But I do think that this is a breakthrough, and I think that this will invite more people in our community to be more open and fluent about what they're going through, and even find diagnosis of
I think
exactly
this will really
what they're experiencing.
This will really set people free, especially seeing
Set
you,
people free.
Emmanuel, like as a man, like to be able to be
Sending
vulnerable,
hearts.
showing your strength, and like, because I feel like a lot of men in our community
Don't cry.
There's another level of just not feeling comfortable or safe enough to express the fullness of your humanity and show that strength. So I definitely appreciate you showing that vulnerability.
I'm gonna get cooked.
And I want to
command you to. Aside from being cooked, we command you here.
We got your back.
We
And,
command
This is
you
something
here.
that I think
No,
everyone
no.
can relate
And we
to.
want to
Absolutely.
I want to thank all of you
Nobody's
guys
fucking
for
cooking
showing
over
your
it.
strength
It
and
takes strength to do
vulnerability and your expertise wherever you are, and your experience. Like, it takes a lot to do that, and we truly appreciate that. I'm speaking for the ladies of Sosa, because I know, Christine, I know you feel the same way.
Yeah, it's very admirable,
yeah.
especially Nyaliba and Togria. Like, for you guys to go into that space, we need people who look like us to be able to be there to advocate for us, and to be able to be a listening ear, because it's different, because you would understand a South Sudanese person's experiences more than, let's say, like a white professional. Not saying anything's wrong with that, but it's nice to see someone that's your own.
Can y'all
Representation.
can y'all talk to the next generation, because I know they're probably watching and
I
they
love them,
want
baby.
to be able to help out in the future, and they get to see y'all do your thing. So what would you say to those boys and girls that are ready to help out their community?
We
Like-
are here for
Like your field. How can they join your field?
I mean, as I said, I got my master's in social work, so I'm a licensed master's of social work. But you can specialize in mental health, and that's what I did, because I knew the community needed it. I wanted to learn more, and then that's what got me into it. So you could, get into psychology, and it will get you into that, some of those classes. But it's just you have to have the passion, and you have to have the will and the power, because mental health is
It's hard.
it's hard. It's difficult. That some days I want to walk away and don't come back. But me too. And then, but then I go home and I'm like, okay, I'm ready to do this thing again tomorrow.
Yeah, you wake up in the morning and you're like, all right, I'm good.
Yeah.
Or do it
And
again.
especially, working in the county hospital,
The
free
psychiatric emergency room.
emergency
I'm
room.
sure
Like,
you
there
get
was
a
one
lot
time I
of
walked in, and within the first hour, I think 10 things happened, and I'm like, is it full moon out?
That's a thing in the medical field, right?
It is.
It's
Full
like-
moon is a real
and then
thing.
my friend is like, it's 99.9. Tomorrow will be 100. I'm like, 99.9 is the same as 100.
That is a real thing.
But that's how, people used to, but it's true.
Yes.
When there's full moon
It kind
out,
of structures the
it's
way
yeah,
work is
yeah.
going to be that
You know why? You know what I hate? I used
we
to
go
work.
off of that.
I used to work security in a hospital, and I understand exactly what you're talking about.
on the full moon.
Oh my God!
We're running out of time.
Well, at least
but we
we're
wanna-
ending on
a beautiful
happy,
note.
laughing
Yes,
note.
yes.
So.
And I want to thank you all so much. Like Nyaliba, Vida, Togria,
This is one of
Willie,
our
Emmanuel.
impactful,
Thank
hard.
you.
All of them are
Thank
good,
you.
but this one is really, really important.
I have one more thing to say
Yes.
to the community, South Sudanese community, to the youth. There's help out there.
Yes.
Ask for help. We are here for you. Your family may not understand you, but I know you guys are in this 3 generations. Your parents came from Africa, or you were born here, and then the Western culture, and so you caught in between. But at the same time, your parents had that culture. So be lenient, empathetic to your parents, because we all need to work together as a team. One person cannot do it. We all need to help each other, support each other. So kids or youth, talk to your parents, listen to them, don't judge them, don't think they're hard on you. We were joking about how when they came to America, they were bringing us to survive. And the one has, I came out as an orphan. Unfortunately, I lost both my parents at a younger age. But the rest, that the parents are here with them, they brought you guys to get education. Yeah. That was the key. Get education. But you don't understand them. But, they're thriving because they know education is freedom. They want you to live and everything. So sometimes be empathetic to your parents because they are going through their struggles. They have the trauma going on, the culture going on. But they have to work, 2-3 jobs to support you guys. So.
Yeah. And they're crying for us. The parents have been saying what's going on with our kids.
Children.
They left all their friends and family behind for
just
for
come
their
and
kids.
give us to give you guys a better life, a better life. So at the same time, listen to them, and at the same time, seek help. Talk to them because you have the resources more than they do. And as you ask, really, like, what could you do? Communication. Let's communicate. Let's have an open communication as a community, as a society, and help each other.
Yes, amen. And thank you so much for tuning in to the Ladies of Sosa podcast. If you're even on the verge of contemplating harming yourself, we want to say, like, you matter, especially in our community. Like, you are necessary. And we love you, and your loss will impact us so much more than you will ever know. We need mentorship. Sometimes it could just take that one person that can talk to you, and you matter, and you're necessary, and we need you in our society, and your family needs you, and
you matter.
You matter.
You're valuable.
You're very valuable.
Because your family cannot function without you.
Yeah.
Yes.
You may think you've left, but we're not functioning.
Your family. Sure.
Yeah.
But thank you guys so much. Thank you to our panel, because we are pressed for time, because our conversation is so good that we always go right to the end.
Yes.
So
And leave a comment and interact with us, talk to us, and thank you so much.
And this episode is in honor of
Dwara God.
Yes, in honor of your nephew, and also our childhood friend, and Emmanuel's aunt, and all of the people that we have lost along the way. So
Amen.
thank you guys
May
so
their
much.
memory live on, and
Be
and
sure
they
to
will.
comment.
As long as we have these conversations, their memory will live on.
Oh, exactly.
Absolutely.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
And we want to prevent losing any more of our brothers and sisters.
Yeah.
So thank you guys so much. Let us know what you think about this episode, and we'll catch you guys in the next one.
So love you guys.
Appreciate
Love
that.
you. Bye.